Welcome to Pete and Hannah's Watchlist. I'm your host, Pete Mitchell, and we're here today for We Interrupt Irregular Programming, our TV podcast. On today's show, we catch up with the series finale of Masters of the Air. We continue our look at Curb Your Enthusiasm last season, and One Day and Gentlemen, both on Netflix, both streaming now, and we're going to recap of those series. But before we begin, I'm going to tell you listeners and viewers what you should do. You should like, follow, subscribe, all our social media platforms. Hit the notification button and you'll get great content like this one. This week, what's next? We cover Miller's Girl and we also look at Love Lives Bleeding. We'll also have movie news with Hannah. And this week, AFI Top 100 Revisited is movie number 84 and it's Easy Rider. Let's get on to today's show. And we're going to look at first Masters of the Air. Now, I've been off this show for the last couple of weeks. It has not been great. It had great elements in this last episode. The episode starts, we go back into the camp, we follow the boys, and they're marching to a new camp in Germany, and they have the pitfalls of that. And then you got bombing raids, planes getting shot down, Russians helping. They also have a look at some camps in Poland, concentration camps, and then we go back to the camp getting liberated, and then we find out what happens to all the boys. Look, this series had a lot of work to do to tell a lot of stories, and I believe they should have just concentrated on maybe two, Buck and Cleveland. But they went through all different stories. They talked about Cross, which was based on his book. I wasn't really happy with that storyline as well. The main thing is they could have told two great stories. They could have told the start of the 100 where they were getting shot down constantly, then ended up in the prisoner of war camp, and then life in a prisoner of war camp. They could have told that story, and then the aftermath of the war for the boys, and then they could have concentrated on their lives, but it seemed really weird. Like, in this episode, Austin Butler's character, Cleveland, he escapes, and then he does a mission to Netherlands, and if you fear that he's going to get shot down, nothing happens. And I think they were just showing that because of how great humanitarian aid that they gave towards the end. There was some elements of the show just didn't work. They brought the Tuskegee Airmen into it. That was for one episode. They highlighted two guys at the end in the title cards, but I didn't know anything about those guys in the show, So, unlike Pacific and Band of Brothers, which I've mentioned these shows on multiple occasions, I just felt there was a better story arc in this, and they were really searching for the story arc. And you give these great raids in the first couple of episodes, and then you go away from that. Well, if you're going to go away from that, you've got to go and tell a compelling story, and then stay in that compelling story. I just don't believe they achieved that. Should you watch or miss Masters of the Air? If you love World War II stuff, you might probably get a kick out of this. But if you're not into that, I would definitely give it a miss. Rating for Masters of the Air would be I played on my phone. The next show we're going to talk about is Curb Your Enthusiasm. Look, I'm in the bag for this one. A couple of people have mentioned to me that this series hasn't been that great, but I'm finding it really funny. This episode, based on three storylines. The first storyline is Larry having a relationship with someone that is making his portrait, the artist making his portrait, and then his housekeeper walking in on Larry going down on his artist, and then the housekeeper refusing to do any work. Larry gets given the portrait from the artist, but he's not there to collect it. The cleaner is, the housekeeper is, and she decides to paint the artist's legs in front of Larry's face, and that is the portrait that they hang in this art gallery. And that's one element of this story. The other element is a golf member at Larry's country club has a stroke. Larry gets a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. He didn't really know this guy that well. He then gets called in to this group chat. He hates this group chat. He really hates this group chat. It's so just benign, platitudes and, fight on. Larry's just giving it to it for the whole time. And then he is given the honour, but not for Larry, of being the guardian for his 11-year-old girl to try and usher her into adulthood. But Larry goes to the guy who's like trying to recover from a stroke and says, look, I'm not your guy for this. Funkhausen's selling your violin. That's my idea of, helping out. And so he convinces this guy by drinking out of a flask, ogling women, and then he gives it to Funkhausen. Funkhausen, he hates this. He goes off, and he goes to Larry and says, "You have screwed me over. This is no thing of a friend." So Funkhausen uses Larry's number one trick at the moment, being in a dream and pretending that you are talking in that dream, and you. This is the third element of the story where he tells Jeff to get out of a flight that he has to go to North Carolina with Susie. Have a nightmare where you're screaming out that you're gonna, you're getting claustrophobic and all these things. Susie will say, you don't have to go on the flight because you're scared, and you'll be all sweet, which actually happens. Funkhausen does this to Larry. He goes to the guy who's having a stroke, and then he has a nap in the hospital room, and he's calling out, saying all these things that he's going to tell the guy's daughter, how, you should steal, you should be a not nice person. So he decides to give it back to Larry. Larry's not happy. He goes to the house of the guy that's had a stroke, and he fights with Funkhausen over the violin, and they end up dropping it. Susie comes in and overhears Larry say that the dream scenario that, calling out the dream is all fake, and then makes Jeff go to North Carolina. When Funkhausen and Larry are fighting over that violin, I was in tears. I was just loving it. So continue watching this episode, this season. Really looking forward to it. Can't wait to find out whether they're going to bring the Georgia thing back in, where he's fighting for the right to give the lady water in the wine. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that story coming back in. Let's talk about a couple of shows that have aired over the last couple of weeks on Netflix. The first one is The Gentleman, which is created by Guy Ritchie. There was a movie a couple of years ago before COVID that starred Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Grant, Charlie Hunnam, was about the Lords hiding marijuana growing plants on their estates, and this is featured on this TV show is featured on one of those estates, and them dealing with the grower. The title character is played by Theo James, who is an actor that's been in White Lotus. He was in The Time Traveler's Wife. He was in the Divergent series with Shailene Woodley. He's quite good in this. Really good cast in this. Giancarlo Esposito. He plays one of the big bads. Ray Winston. You also got the young lady from the Maze Runner series. She's in this as well. You got Jolene Richardson's in this as well. So yeah, it's a pretty good cast. But you can really tell the Guy Ritchie episodes, and compared to the others as well, the ones that Guy Ritchie co-writes and directs, are just fantastic. Look, anyone that knows from our show What's Next, I love Guy Ritchie. I love Ruse de Guerre was one of my favourite films last year. We gave it an award at the Watchies. Guy Ritchie is one of my favourites, and this TV show works for me. It's a pretty good conclusion. If they give it a second season, There's some things to play with. The post-credit scene's great. It's definitely Guy Ritchie fun. And, it's just, there's some really, really funny bits. There are some episodes there you could do without. But overall, out of the 8 episodes, I would say at least 5 of them are really, really top draw. I would give this rating, I would say it's a definite watch. I would definitely give this rating as a golf clap, and The Gentleman is now streaming on Netflix. The last show that I'm going to talk about today is One Day. It's been around for a few weeks on the Netflix charts, TV show. It's got 14 episodes. The episodes' lengths run from anywhere from 25 minutes to 43 minutes. It's about July 15th, 2 characters that meet at university, and you follow their lives. Now, there are some episodes that are absolutely terrible. There's also episodes where they're not interacting at all, which this is the key to this show. The chemistry between the 2 leads, and you can see where this show's going, but it is a really, really good show. I really got it. There was a movie a few years ago, Anne Hathaway, Jim Sturgis. That was quite good as well. If you like that, you will like this. I think this one's a watch. I think this is a golf clap. It's one of the most popular shows on Netflix this year. Just a fun show. There's some elements on this that just doesn't work for me at all, but I streamed it pretty quickly, and I can definitely say it's a watch. That is it for today's show. Next week, we're going to have a look at the new episodes of The Regime. Some funny stuff there. We'll continue to have a look at Curb Your Enthusiasm. And New Look is coming to the end on Apple TV. We're going to have a look at that show, see if it's worth a watch as well. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. Don't forget, tomorrow is What's Next, the show where we help you figure out what to watch next when it comes to cinema. Until next week, it's...